Hi everyone, welcome back. So gosh, we are running through all of these sessions one after another, and we are going to get straight into this one as well. So I would like to say hi to Sumya. It's so great to see you. Could you do a quick introduction for us?
Hi, my name is Soumya, and I'm going to be taking your session today on how to build a quiz generator from your notes.
Oh my goodness, I'm sure this will be really useful for all of the students and people in academia in the audience. And I know you're going to be using the Azure Cognitive Services. So yeah, feel free to take it away and share your screen. And then we'll come back at the end if there are any questions.
Just give me a sec.
No problem. Okay.
Can you see my screen?
Yes. So if you present it, there we go. Yeah, we can now. There we go.
Then. So, hi everyone, my name is Soumya, and I'm gonna be taking your session on how to build a quiz generator from your notes. Let me just introduce myself. I'm Soumya Narkaraju. I'm a junior at GNETS. I'm a pre-final year student. I've been a Microsoft Student Ambassador for about a year now, and I'm the IEEE Secretary of my student branch. I'm genuinely passionate about technology, and I'm a complete bookworm. So let's jump into why we need to build a quiz generator. So usually college students or students around the world, high school students, we write so much of notes. We continuously write notes in every single class, and on an average, as I stated in the fact here, on an average, students will take about 30 to 45 classes each semester, and that gives out 200 to 400 pages of writing. When we usually try to prepare for an exam or when we're trying to revise to our notes, what happens is we try to go through 200 or 400 pages of worth of notes. So that's a lot of notes that you have to read, which is technically it would be impossible, but we students make it possible. So what my idea when I first started out this project was, why can't I make this easier for me? Why do I have to read every single page of every single paragraph? And let's make this easier. So what I did was I built a quiz generator. What a quiz generator, when you usually use it, you don't have to go through every single point of your notes, and you could just you could just take the important lines and important sentences from your notes, and then you could create a quiz from it. If you go through the quiz, you would automatically go through your notes, which makes it completely easier for you to understand what you were going through the notes, what happened in the class, and whatever you needed to learn for or revise or go for your exam. So how do I make this come true? How do I have a notes which is on a notebook, and it's physically on a notebook, and I need a quiz generator on my laptop. So how does the process in between this even work? So what I did was, usually we use the OCR API. So what I did was I have a note. So I took a picture of my note and then I put it through the OCR Azure Cognitive Services OCR API. And well, a bit of data science code added with it, and I got my quiz. So I'm going to explain how the code works and how the Azure OCR API works, and how could I replace this with other APIs. So when we go through each step by step of this process, genuinely we have 7 steps of this process. We take the picture of our notes, we put it through the OCR API, we extract the answers that we need from this paragraph or text that we have from our notes. We generate the keywords of whatever are in the paragraph or text. We predict the keywords, and then we generate the questions based on this, and then we give it out as a quiz. So if we want to give it out as a quiz, we have 3 types. We could give it out as a multiple choice quiz, we could give it out as a long paragraph quiz, we could give it out short, or you could actually just pick out the important points from the notes and then frame it as questions, blank space or multiple choice. In this, what I'm going to do in my project, what I did was I took a sentence, give it a blank space, and whatever you have to fill in the word. And for the word, I would give you the correct options for whatever you have to fill in the word, and then we would also predict the incorrect words from it. So it would basically be a form of natural language processing, where we take a text, we read through each sentence, we analyze it, and then we find out whether the text is, which parts of the text we could take it as an answer to a question, and which part of the text are incorrect answers to whatever the question is. So that would be a major part that we should be focusing on. We usually what happens when we write an exam is we get confused between a right answer and a wrong answer, and the difference between that is when we read a sentence, we only read what is in that sentence, and if we don't remember it correctly, we get confused with the wrong answer. So to make it a bit more efficient for the quiz generator, I also produce the incorrect answers. So the Azure Cognitive Services, what happens here? When I use the OCR API, you have two different types of optical character recognition APIs on cognitive services. That is the OCR API and the read API. Both of them, well, technically speaking, they both work the same. We give it a picture as an input. It recognizes the words in it, gives it as text. But what's the difference between both of these APIs on cognitive services? So in the cognitive services, computer vision, what happens is the OCR API, if it has like small amount of text in the images, you could get that easily. But the read API, if you have a text or a picture where you wrote like continuously 50 lines of words or paragraph, a complete paragraph on it, you would better go with a read API. So this depends on what your notes looks like, on what your picture that you're giving to the API looks like. Because usually when we write notes, this is a kind of a case, two different types of cases that we can see in the notes. If you write your notes really roughly and you don't jot down a lot of points, and there's a lot of space between two lines, and the text isn't as dense as what you usually, it also depends on the subjects that you're using, so that would be a difference. So you need to select each one of these if you want to go for an OCR API or a read API. Both of them usually return the same stuff. You could get the regions in the image that contain the text and the lines of the text in each region and the words in each line of the text. And the read API also gives the state, it's arranged into the same hierarchy, just a little bit of difference, which we usually oversee. But when you give it good thinking and when you consider the image that you're giving into the API, this would create a major difference. So let's go further. How do I use this OCR API in Jupyter Networks on Visual Studio Code? So if you worked with Azure before, you would know that you need to get a cognitive services key and a cognitive endpoint. So if you need to get this cognitive endpoint, you need to go to the Azure Cognitive Services, create a service, and then go to the Machine Learning Studio, create whatever API that you need, and then you have to create this. Create whatever API that you need and take the cognitive key and the cognitive endpoint of that key. And then what happens is you give the notes as your input, and then it gives it back as the text. So what happened was, this is a screenshot of what you would get if you use Azure Key Vault in the Cognitive Services API. You need to use this key here, and you have to copy paste it here. The key is unique for each and every key that you generate in Azure. So it's a must that you have to have the key and the endpoint here. This is my endpoint. So you have to, it's unique for you. You have to use that for the OCR API to make your OCR API work. This is the same thing that happens with the read API on Azure too. So if you're trying to use read API, you have to create your read API service on Azure, and then in this cognitive key and cognitive endpoint, you have to replace them with that. So that would be what you need to do. To get the text from your notes pictures, what you need to do is you have to use the computer vision API. If you want to work on Azure Jupyter Notebooks, on Azure Machine Learning Studio, you could use this. You don't have to use this code, and you could directly use it there on the Machine Learning Studio. But if you want to import it into Visual Studio Code, you have to use this code, which is available on Microsoft's GitHub, on the Cognitive Services Microsoft GitHub. And if you want to like get your text data from your node picture, you have to upload it to your Visual Studio Code in the same file, and then run this data with your Cognitive Services key and endpoint, and then you'll get your data. So till now, what we did was we used our Azure Cognitive Services and we got our data, but we need to build a quiz from that data. So what do? I used Pickle in my project. Usually we use Pickle for byte synchronization and data science. So usually what Pickle does is if you have like a feature engineered data, and if you want to save it, it works for both data and the machine learning model. So if you want to save your machine learning model data or your machine learning model without training it over and over again, you dump the pickle, and then if you want to use it, you load the pickle. The pickle exist is I was actually checking if the Python object called pickle. So this would you could use this, you could skip this part, but it would be better if you use this part. If you use pickle in your project, I included the Pickle documentation on whatever you need to know about Pickle in the resources group. So if you have any doubt about Pickle, you could head over to the resources on the AI Student Conference resources webpage. Next, we need to extract the answers from the text. Well, we have a text right now, and what we need from this text is we go through each and every sentence, and then we have to check which one of them is an answer. You have to, if we take the sentence, oxygen's atomic number is 8. What you need from this text is you don't need atomic number, you don't need oxygen. What happens is you could use a blank space as oxygen's atomic number is 8. So oxygen could be a blank space, atomic number could be a blank space, and 8 could be a blank space. What all these are answers to the text. So we need to extract these answers from the text. Now, how do we do that? So firstly, what I did was I use Spacey. Spacey is an open source Python library for information extraction, and usually natural language processing. So what you could use Spacey in this manner. So this text in this text, what I did was I checked the answer of each and every sentence. I took the length of the sentence in the text, and then I checked each of the sentence, and then I added it. So I got the answers from the text. So what I needed to do was I needed to predict whether the word was a keyword or not. So I know what the word is, but I need to know if it's correct or not. So you could use this. You need to generate a data frame from this. So what usually would happen is you have a word like, again, let's use the example, oxygen's atomic number is 8. So here the keywords would be oxygen, atomic number, and 8. So how do I know if this is a word is a keyword or not? And if it's a keyword, I need to store it. So we have two data frames, right? One of the data frame is with the text that you got from your picture in Azure OCR API or Read API. The other data frame that we need to use is this words that we got from the data. So we create two different data frames. So in the end, we check every single one of the words, and then we return this data frame. And then you need to predict these keywords. Usually we would do that using you just load the pickle you got from here. You save the pickle, right? You dump the pickle. So you just load the pickle again. And then you check each and every word in that. And then you have to append it to another data frame, and then you get all the keywords to it. So right now what we have is we know what the answers are. We know the data frame. We have a data frame of all the words that have keywords. And right now what we need is the blank answer. So what happened was when we usually define a blank answer, so let's take the example again of oxygen's atomic number is 8. If you take the answer as atomic number, you have oxygen is an atomic number. If you take it out and put it as a blank space, we have is 8. So you have text on this on the left side and also text on the right side. So you need to store this somewhere as a question, right? Atomic number, oxygen's dash atomic number dash is 8, and in the blank space we have atomic number. So we have to write code for that. You get the left part of the code and the right part of the code, and then you add a blank space in the middle. So that would be what we need to define the question. The next one is find the questions which have answers. If you take, we took the sentence oxygen's atomic number is 8, but for some sentences, suppose we have suppose we have a sentence that does not have an answer, like like a continuation of oxygen's atomic number is 8. It is a halogen. So what happens is, what is it? You don't have any answer for there, and you have to detect the answer for it, right? So we only have to find the questions which have answers to it. So that is another important thing that we have to check, and we could check it by this. We have to take each answer as a token. And check if each token has an answer to it, and if it doesn't have an answer to it, then you remove it, or you if it does have an answer to it, return it as a question and answer pair. So it's a question and it has a pair, it has an answer as a pair. So we have to find the questions which also have answers, instead of only the questions which are a bit like which do not have answers, basically. And then we generate the questions. So you saw all of these functions, right? So from all of these functions, it's in a Jupyter notebook, right? So we generate the questions from all of these functions, and then we predict the words, we add the questions, and then we add distractors, which I'll go over. And then you have to print these questions. And next, distractors. Distractors, usually what happens is we give it as the incorrect answers for the text, and then we we use Distractors and GenSim, which is also an open source Python library which we use for natural language processing. And then by using GenSim, what we do is we generate the distractors, whatever the wrong answers that you have, and then we give it out as an output. So what we would get is, we define the OCR API, we get the cognitive services, and then we define all of the functions that we need in this to generate a quiz. The predict word and the predict the keys, the word is a keyword, and every single one of those. And then we generate the distractors and then the main functions to generate the quiz. And then we get our output. This is the text that I got, and then I generated 10 questions from this. So I took the text, I gave it as I want 10 questions, and then each one of them, they give the question. The question contains of a left side and a right side and a blank space in the middle, and it contains the answer and the incorrect answers for it. So we suppose dash oxygen gas consists of 20.8% of the Earth's atmosphere. We have the answer and the incorrect answers from this. So that would be the project. And well, our quiz is ready. We got our notes, and then we have our code, and then we used it Azure Cognitive Services OCR API, and then we made a quiz from it. So that would be the project that I did. If you want to go over this, or if you want to enhance this a better, you could do it 2 ways. These were actually my ideas. If you want to do them, you could implement them, and you could reach out to me and tell me how you implemented them. You could reach out to me on LinkedIn. So what you could do for these projects is, you could integrate it with Power Platform and create a Power App such that a person could upload their picture, put it through this code and to the OCR API in the code, and then it would return them a quiz. And second one would be, you could use a little bit of deep learning, and then what you could do was, if a person uploads a text, the text immediately goes to the internet, does some web scraping, find out which parts of the text is an important parts, what are the other questions that we could expect from this, and then it returns extra questions, not only the ones in the text that we have. So that could be two possible stuff that you could do from my point of view. If you have other point of view, I'd be really delighted to hear them. So yeah, that's the quiz time. So anybody has any questions, you could post them on the chat, and yeah.
And I will ask them to you. Thanks so much, Soumya. That was really great presentation. I like that you combined cognitive services and OCR and Spacey into one project. There is one question. What happens if OCR makes slight mistakes? How do you handle that?
Well, what happens is, you could write a more efficient code so that when you take the OCR API and it gives like a slight glitch in it. So what would happen is you could use a bit of web scraping or stuff like that, and then you could check with it would actually overlook this and predict whether a question has an answer or not. Because if it gets a different type of glitch in it, it would not give it as a question at all, a question with a pair.
Yeah, actually, you can also use the cognitive service for spell checking because it has the spell checking capabilities, and that would help eliminate some of the small mistakes that OCR might do.
You could also use the Q&A bot, which Jahnavi and Jayesh were talking about in the Microsoft Learn walkthrough. This was actually a follow-up project of what you could do after learning those.
Yeah, that's exactly what I wanted to mention, that after you generate the quiz, it would be good to run the quiz as the part of a bot. So you generate questions and then you can have the bot where people would answer those questions. And this actually sounds like a good startup, like you take a picture and you have the bot created, which automates the whole process. There was also one question in the chat, like, do you have to use Python for this project?
Well, it's not a compulsory of a Python. If you know any other languages like JavaScript or whatever languages could work when we get the output, any language that you could get. This is my point of view and what I know I did for the project. If you have any other like types or any other different ideas for the project, that would be like completely amazing.
Yeah, actually, from Python specific things, I think what you use NLP capabilities, right?
Yeah.
You use Spacey.
I used a lot of Python libraries.
Yeah, so in this project, like, you cannot avoid using Spacey, and Spacey is something like quite Python specific. So that would be difficult probably to find. Well, it's possible to find the replacement in other languages, but Python, of course, is unparalleled for that. If you move outside from that, cognitive services, they are accessible from any language. It's just the REST API which you can call, right? So like for creation of the bot, you can use C#, you can use JavaScript. For the initial part, like doing OCR, you can also use any of your favorite languages. But yeah, with NLP, Python is probably.
If you're trying to use exact the same libraries that I'm using, then maybe you should stick with Python.
Yeah, can you envision some kind of further development of this project? Like where would you like to take it?
I was actually trying to get into the web scraping so that when we have a text, you search it in the web and then you give it like it gives you an answer such that you don't get the questions from the text that you provided and also from text from outside. And I wanted to integrate that into Power Apps so that you could get like an app for it without like a no code, low code platform type. So that would be a really amazing development to this project.
Or maybe you can write a code which would scrape the whole Wikipedia and create all possible quizzes from it, and that would be like a mega quiz.
And then integrate all of it into Power Apps.
Yeah, so there are a lot of directions you could take this to, and actually there are a lot of comments in the chat. You can go and check them out. They all like your project quite a lot. So I think all of the questions we have more or less discussed, and yeah, otherwise go and see a lot of nice comments towards you. So we are coming to our next session. I think we can play a short commercial and then proceed with the next session.